We, the jury, find George Zimmerman not guilty. So say we all.
And that's how it played out last night in Sanford, Florida. George Zimmerman acquitted of murder in the death of Trayvon Martin.
His lawyers argued the killing was in self-defense, and in the end, that's what the jury believed. And here to talk about it this morning is Reverend Charles Williams II, local leader of the National Action Network, which is Al Sharpton's organization.
And also joining us, Rick Ector, gun rights advocate who teaches about self-defense in his Firearms Academy. Reverend Williams, let's start with you. And did the jury get this one wrong?
The jury got this one 100% absolutely wrong. We are severely upset at this decision. And quite frankly, what it shows is that still in the South, it's hard to get justice for an African American. I mean, this man was brutally gunned down and shot. And 6 jurors decided that it was not clear enough evidence that he should do time. I think everybody in the world can see and has seen, does not matter if you were black or white, if you saw this case, you have definitely had a certain amount of commitment to saying that justice was not upheld.
Well, do you think if the races were reversed that the verdict would have been different?
I think if the races were reversed, if it was a little white boy who was shot by some big burly African-American male, that it would have been obviously a manslaughter case or a murder case. I
totally disagree. Listen, I agreed with you Thursday night on Let It Rip. I said Zimmerman should be guilty but of manslaughter because I don't think you should go out and patrol neighborhoods with guns. Let me bring in Rick Ector, though. Is this a racial verdict, do you think, here?
No, I think, here's the thing. No one should be rejoicing that a 17-year-old has lost his life. I've heard a lot of mischaracterization as to what the actual law is. The law in the state of Florida is very similar to the law here in the state of Michigan. Basically, what it says is that if you are somewhere you have a legal right to be, you are not committing a crime, and you have, get this, both a reasonable and honest belief that you're facing an imminent threat of great bodily harm, rape, or death. I let you talk. I gave you some respect, so let me finish.
The bottom line is
if you have a reasonable and honest belief, you're being rude. I let you answer 2 questions, and now you want to hijack the whole show.
Trayvon Martin was armed with some Skittles. He didn't have a gun.
And Zimmerman got out of his car, ran after the boy.
That was not proven. At the end of the day,
yes, it was.
In our society,
he was told.
I'm trying to do that. If you would hijacking the conversation. The point is, here in the state of Michigan, just like it is in Florida, if you are somewhere you have a legal right to be, and you're not committing a crime,
you can run after a 17-year-old boy and go gun him down.
And if you have both a reasonable and honest belief that you're facing an imminent threat of great bodily harm, sexual assault, or death, you have
put yourself in trouble.
You have a right to defend yourself without a duty to retreat. What these anti-gun people want to do, they want to go back to.
I didn't say it was anti-gun.
They want to throw the October 2006
If Trayvon Martin had a gun, he could have shot George Zimmerman. How about that?
They want to reinstate the duty to retreat. When someone,
how about that?
Excuse me.
When someone, if Trayvon Martin had a gun, couldn't he have shot him?
When someone is presenting a threat to you, you need to be able to respond to that threat without having to prove to the state that you made a good enough effort to get away. Here's the thing with the court case.
That sounds like the Wild Wild West.
No, it's not the Wild West. I mean, mischaracterizing.
What I'm saying to you,
you're deluding the public as to what the law says. What I'm telling you is that if you are presumed innocent until you are proven guilty.
Here's the thing.
You know what? It bothers me that gun advocates are making this a whole thing about whether you can have a gun or not. This isn't about whether you have a gun or not.
It's not a question of whether you can have a gun or not. It's not. Here's the thing. The thing is you are presumed innocent until you are proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and that was not done in this case. Our system of jurisprudence works.
Congratulations.
You know, it's not anything for congratulations. Here's the thing. If someone convicted, if someone tried to charge you with a crime, you're presumed innocent. You don't want Jesse Jackson Zimmerman and Al Sharpton to hijack justice?
Does it bother you, though, that after this not guilty verdict, that we are going to have neighborhood watch people in Palmer Woods and Brightmoor and all these communities in Detroit going out there with their guns, watching this neighborhood? Does that bother you?
Does it bother me? I'm not a huge
running
fan.
up on people.
Even when the 911 person
See, here you
stay
are.
in your car.
You know what? You should have given
The 911
testimony. You
person
should have
says
given
stay in your
testimony
car.
in the trial because you know what? That wasn't presented in the case.
Yes, it was.
Here's the
They
thing.
don't wanna hear the
Here's
facts.
the
They don't
thing.
wanna hear
With
the truth.
respect to community watch groups, if individuals want to go out into their communities and watch
And shoot up
see what's going
17-year-old
on,
boys who look suspicious,
if
go
they're
right
bashing
ahead.
their head into the concrete, sure.
Yeah,
you're
if you just
defending
jump
yourself
on me
and you're
from my-
defending your
if
life.
you go to jump
Here's the
on-
thing.
he's defending his
Is
life.
it legal
What
to
about
be in a
his life?
community watch group?
Should
Are we
he
saying
defend his
that
life?
we should
Hold on,
ban
Reverend,
community watch
Reverend,
groups?
we'll get you.
Should he defend his life? I'm trying to be very reserved a lot of
Oh,
times.
no, you keep interrupting me. You're not
quite
reserved.
frankly, this issue really has me burning in my heart. And the reason is because it is quite clear throughout the country, most of Americans can obviously see that this man did not deserve to walk away with nothing. And I think whether you feel like it's manslaughter, whether you feel like it's murder 1 or murder 2, he definitely did not deserve to walk away.
The prosecution did not prove its case. The jury had a duty
the
to vote
prosecutor did not
prove that he's not guilty.
The prosecutor did not disprove self-defense. I mean, that's really the way I see that jury coming down. Because in Florida, like Michigan, if the defense raises self-defense, then the prosecutor has to disprove that.
Exactly,
which is
and they did not prove their case, and the jury had to acquit as a matter of conscience, as a matter of the law.
Trayvon Martin was walking around with a bag of Skittles and a Pepsi or whatever, or Sprite or whatever.
Did he not break his nose and did he not slam his head into the concrete?
It's very
You're asking the jury to take a leap of faith and to blindly believe what the prosecution says without affording them the opportunity of proving their case. If you are charged with the crime, whether you did it or not, it's the prosecution to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Man,
and you got a problem with that. Here's the thing. In our system, that's a great system that you're presumed innocent. If they prove you guilty, fine, you go to prison. If they don't prove you guilty, you know what? They must acquit. Our system worked the way it was designed to.
But you know, what does this say, though? And I think Charlie touched on it a little bit, though. I mean, we have a huge crime problem, obviously, in Detroit and in many places where people feel like they can take justice into their own hands. I mean, what is this going to have to? What does this say about vigilante justice? I mean, are people going to be able to just carry guns and take the law into their own hands if they feel like there's a threat? Because in the end, this kid just
they're
had
not going to
Skittles
do
on
that.
his street.
If you want to run up,
that's not true,
on
Charles.
somebody,
You're
get in
being
a fight with
disingenuous
them,
and you're lying to the people. Here's the thing. It must be reasonable and honest. An imminent threat of great bodily harm, sexual assault, or death. If you use lethal force outside of those parameters, you are guilty and you will go to prison. The prosecution did not prove that.
17-year-old boy.
If the prosecution could prove that, Zimmerman would have been guilty. They didn't prove that.
They asked him not to go.
At the end of the day, you're going to have to get past this case, and you're going to have to respect the verdict of the jury.
Are you planning a protest? I mean, do you think a civil rights
absolutely. We are going
to protest?
Absolutely, positively.
Aren't you complicating things? Do you believe in the jury system? Can't that be the final answer?
In this case, that is not the final answers. We did not get justice in this situation, and I think.
But you're perpetuating this, aren't you?
I am not perpetuating anything. The people will speak. And I think the thousands of folks out there that are planning demonstrations in Sanford, Florida, and Detroit, Michigan, and Washington, D.C., we are headed all across the country. Folks from the National Action Network, our national leader was on another show this morning talking about the fact that we are headed to Washington, D.C. This will be a top on the agenda.
But is it going to become even more a race issue, though, with these sort of protests that are going to be happening?
Well, I think that race is you cannot excuse race. I think that it may not be necessarily a race issue, but I think you cannot excuse race, and that conversation
race
has
was
to
in the
be
background
had.
when they brought this case in the first place. It wasn't until Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton start doing their race baiting and start getting the racists divided.
We've got to take a break over here. Let's take a break over here. We'll come back with this race issue. Is it a race issue? The verdict on the George Zimmerman case, not guilty of second-degree murder. Rick Ector, Reverend Williams will be continuing this discussion in just a moment.